Do you remember Ellen indicating that she may need medical leave beyond the 2 weeks that had been provided in that letter?
I don't recall that specifically, but I wouldn't disagree if she says that mentioned that or indicated that that is fine. But we did, the issue is that we never received any additional medical documentation for her to need to be off of work.
Okay, and you never requested any additional medical documentation from her after August 4th. Is that correct?
I would disagree with that statement,
Okay.
but I would also tell you, I believe my wording was, your medical documentation indicated this would be your return to work date. And this is going by my recollection. This is when she rescinded her separation agreement. Unless we receive other medical documentation stating you cannot report to work, this is when we expect you to report to work. So I would say it's kind of the same.
Okay. Turn to Respondents Exhibit 17. That's Trial Exhibit 28. And we're looking at Lumen 118.
Oh, okay, yes.
Is this what you were just referencing?
If I could have a moment to review it.
Go for it.
Okay, thank you. I don't recall exactly what your question is, but I could say based on what I had previously stated, I was incorrect in what I was stating in my recollection.
Got it. So this has refreshed your recollection. You did not request any additional medical documentation from Ellen, correct?
That is correct. I do believe at some point I did. I don't have a recollection of when I did or didn't, but if it's based on this email, no, I clearly did not.
Okay. And was the possibility of Ellen working as Sean's executive assistant discussed at any time on August 6th with Ellen?
No, not at that time.
Was there any discussion of Ellen's return to work in any way on August 6th?
With Ellen or with someone else?
With Ellen.
No. Well, let me rephrase that. She had the opportunity to sign the separation agreement. What would have happened if she chose not to on that date? I guess I can't say what would have happened, but because she signed the separation agreement. So no further discussion occurred.
Okay. I think we're close. Just looking. I don't know. Could I have maybe 5 minutes to confirm that I'm done, and then we can move over if I am done to redirect?
All right. Why don't we come back? Yeah. I've got 2:06 right now, so let's just say 2:12. We'll come back at 2:12.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. We are back on the record now, and Attorney Yerk, have you reviewed your notes and?
Yes, and I did get an email also with the document we requested. Where Ellen Kutz is listed as a topic of discussion during the transition. And I don't know how best to deal with that. We can I don't know if we need it. I think it's been read into the record. I guess yeah, I don't have any strong feelings about it. I don't know what we should do, because we discussed it. Should we make it an exhibit is kind of my question.
I mean, I guess I haven't seen the document, so I can't really, sort of weigh in on it. I mean, on the face of it, it seems like we've talked about the substance of the document. So, I don't know that we need to mark it as an exhibit.
I think it's been read into the record. I can represent, and I think Mr. Yerk would agree with me, that what has been read into the record is essentially the entirety of the document. That fair?
Yeah, I just want to make sure the exact wording on the discipline stuff is in there, and I'm gonna read it. And then if we all confirm that's the only thing in there about discipline, we can be done with it. Does that sound reasonable?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Stacy will speak with her about attitude / tone this week.
Oh, well, I misunderstood. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, read the entirety of the document.
Go for it.
Looks like it from an Excel spreadsheet, column. The first column is entitled topic. Down the column is the name Ellen Kutz. Next category is the next column entitled notes. And in the notes box, next to the name Ellen Kutz reads, admin assistant at SPI, period. Just returned from medical leave, period. Stacy will speak with her about attitude tone this week, period. And that's the entirety of the document to my understanding.
What's the date of the document?
Undated.
Undated.
I think the witness represented that it was a document she received during the transition into her position. So is it fair to say that this document is dated on or around the time you started, which was June 1st, 2021? Sorry, Carrie, you are muted.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, then one question after that. Who would know more about Lumen's finances, you or Renata?
That would be Renata Holgard.
Okay, I am done.
All right, very briefly, Ms. Brust, please turn to, in the Lumen book, Exhibit 27.
Is this a trial document?
Trial Exhibit 8.
Is this the email dated August 20th, 2021?
No, this,
Okay, then I'm.
well, it's a letter. The August 20th.
Letter, sorry, letter.
Okay, second page, please. Bottom paragraph. And I only direct your attention to this because you testified just only minutes ago about whether you ever expressed to Ellen concerns about additional medical leave beyond the 16th of August 2021. And first you said you testified to something, and then you were shown an email and said perhaps you were mistaken. Is this paragraph what you had in mind?
Which paragraph are we looking at?
Oh, sorry, the bottom paragraph on the second page of the letter, which is at Lumen 99.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly what I was referring to. I mean, yes, it is exactly what I was referring to.
Okay, and just to be clear, would you mind just reading the very last sentence on that page into the record?
You have failed to respond to us. You have failed to respond to repeated attempts to contact you via email, voicemail, and text messages during the week of August 16th, 2021, and you have not provided any medical substantiation to require an extension of your time off.
Okay. And is that a continuation from something you were expressing in the sentence before it?
Yes, that is correct.
And does it read, Lumen Schools has not received any medical substantiation from your medical provider stating you cannot report to work?
Yes.
Okay. You were asked lots of questions about what has been marked as Exhibit 14. That's that, well, why don't we get there? C22, page 65.
Oh, complaints 22, sorry.
Yep, yeah. The big complainants binder at Lumen 65.
Yeah, if anybody ever wants to send an email message to my husband, tell him I need an office in my home. Sorry, that was rhetorical.
And we're talking about trial Exhibit 14.
Okay, the Thursday, July 29th email.
Yep. You were asked questions about this email and the attendance policy at length on the second page. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes,
And you remember being asked numerous times if there was any policy about requiring medical substantiation
yes,
for return to work?
yes,
And you remember saying you thought somewhere there was a policy, but you couldn't quite place it, that documentation can be requested at any time? Do you
yes,
testifying to that?
yes.
Okay. Bullet point 5, the second sentence. Could you read that to me?
Oh, okay. The supervisor also has the option to request a doctor's statement at any time at his/her discretion.
Is that what you were referring to?
Yes,
Objection. I think this is asked and answered, and we talked about that very sentence.
Okay. And, well,
Well, I don't know that. I don't know that this particular sentence came up during the cross-examination, but the witness's response stands. What's the next question?
and there have been a lot of questions about whether, the timing of Ms. Doherty's request and your request the following day for medical substantiation. Under this policy, could have the request been made on the second day of her absence?
yes.
On the 5th day?
Objection. Calls for speculation is irrelevant.
I don't know that it's speculation if this is the human resources person. So I'm going to let the witness respond.
Could it be made on the 5th day,
Yes,
on the 8th day,
yes,
and the 10th day?
yes,
Okay. That August 4th letter that you brought to Ms. Kutz' house or apartment that day, do you
Yes.
recall being shown that exhibit?
yes.
Why didn't you give that to Ms. Kutz on the 4th of August?
Because based on the conversation we had within the first few moments of meeting, she did not abandon her job.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Any recross, Attorney Yerk?
Only about this blasted page 66. Is it your understanding of the attendance policy that while an employee is out for a medical reason, they are required to provide medical substantiation at any time with no limitation as to how quickly they need to provide it?
The only reason why I'm pausing is because if you were an employee asking me that question, I'd be looking to which, Wisconsin Fair Employment Law or the Department of Labor law that we would be applying it to. So the answer would vary based on the it is a situational response based on the question.
Got it. And there's nowhere in the handbook that outlines that.
Not specifically with every single law that would apply, but when you go through, and I'm just going to speak to you for a moment as an HR professional, it's kind of like a if this, then that, like flow chart, like you go through like in your mind of questions like, does this apply to ADA? Does this apply to FMLA? Does it apply to both? Is workers' comp involved? And there's just a number of factors that you need to take into consideration before responding and requesting, and you do the very best you can to make sure that you're adhering to every single right of the employee.
So this policy, though, this bullet point, specifically this sentence,
I'm sorry.
doesn't say how quickly an employee needs to provide this documentation.
Objection
Correct.
asked and answered, and it speaks for itself.
Well, I'll let the witness respond, Ms. Brust.
Okay, and again, I mean this with all due respect. Are you talking about the second sentence of the last bullet point in the policy?
Yes.
Okay, no, it doesn't specifically state that, but there's the policy or like the practice or like with the employee handbook. It is the interpretation and implementation of what we do as an organization that would make the difference of that. And that's what we were notifying, speaking specifically about Ms. Kutz, what we had expectations of.
Got it. And so in her
Does that answer your
situation, sorry, I think that did. In her situation, 3 days was appropriate.
That was, oh, I should say that is the standard based in our industry in human resources professionals and the certifications I have of what we give. If there is a discussion of needing something longer, more, or further, we enter into interactive dialogue. I know the interactive dialogue is specific to the ADA, but in general, that's what you do as a professional, which again is demonstrated by the fact that although we needed documentation by a Monday, we waited until a Wednesday to act. Or we need to hear from somebody by this certain day, we wait until this certain day to act to allow for employees that for things that they may need to respond to or situations beyond their control or something they may not understand. Again, the only thing I would like to say on behalf of HR professionals is that our goal is to do the very best we can for each employee and the organization. And we also take into consideration very seriously that these are people's livelihoods that we are impacting. And you don't take that lightly, ever, no matter what you do.
All right. That is my last question.
Okay, no further questions.
Let's go on to the next witness then for the respondent, if you have one.
I do. It's Sean Laring. He's been obviously not attending, so we'll need to reach out to him, get him advised to join the conference. Could we just have a minute to make sure that, we can get him logged in?
Yeah, why don't we come back at, let's say, 2:35.
Okay, sounds
So
good.
at 2:35, we want to have Sean Laring logged in. And I just want to be clear, I'm able to stay logged in as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, because you're
Yes.
the designated representative,
Right.
right?
Thank
Okay.
you. Okay, we'll make sure that's done then.
All right. Okay, it looks like everyone's back. We are still in the respondent's case. And Attorney Stoffel, you have called Sean Laring as your next witness. Is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
And if Mr. Laring, if you would please raise your right hand, I'll swear you in for your testimony. Do you swear to tell the truth, all truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And if you would state your name for the record, spelling your last name.
Sean Leering, Luehring.
And what is your position with Lubin?
I'm the president and CEO.
And how long have you worked in that capacity?
About 4 years.
All right, Attorney Stoffel, questions for your witness.
Okay. Mr. Laring, in your capacity as president and CEO of Lumen, are you generally aware of the requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Wisconsin Fair Employment Laws?
Yes, I am. We deal with those on a regular basis.
Okay, and as relates to somebody who has a disability, generally, can you tell me what the requirements would be?
Yeah, first of all, we can't discriminate based on any disability, and if there are accommodations that we can provide, we are required, and I'm happy to do so.
Okay, you keep those requirements in mind as you deal with personnel issues that come up as president and CEO of Lumen?
Yeah, it's probably one of the major things that I have to think about as we work with many different staff.
Okay. I want to direct your attention, just to go right to it, to the issue that brings us all here together, Ms. Kutz and her separation of employment from the Lumen Network. When did it first come to your attention that there was an issue in that regard related to Ms. Kutz?
I don't know if I know the exact date that it came to, but it would have been around the summer of 2021.
Okay, and I guess a lot of people have testified, including Ms. Kutz and Ms. Brustwer, at a meeting that there was a meeting on August 6th and related to a mutual or at least a separation agreement. Does that sound right to you?
Yes, that does.
Okay. And when did you, so with that a little bit of clarification, you recall it, as relates to August 6th, when issues first came to your attention as relates to Ms. Kutz?
Can you just, can you ask that question again, just to make sure I understand?
Sure. So you met with Ms. Kutz on the 6th, right?
Correct.
Okay, and when was it? Just a day or two, or a week or so? Or I mean, can you give me any idea of how soon before the 6th the issues that you were to address with Ms. Kutz came to your attention?
Yeah, I don't know exactly when they were, but my guess are days or a week or so that the specific issues came to me.
Okay, and just tell me, what is it that came to your attention?
Two critical issues in my mind. One, credit card usage, that personal credit card, or using a business credit card for personal uses, and loose money. So money checks that was not deposited in multiple different areas, conflated with personal finances.
Okay. And in light of those issues that came to your attention, what steps were taken?
Yeah, I mean, it's a critical issue. It rises to an immediate reaction. So then we put into place this August 6th meeting where we had a separation agreement for her. It's one of the mismanagement of money is one of the probably most important things that I have to think about, our fiscal practices. So it was pretty immediate that we put that into place.
Okay, and you put this August 6th meeting into place. What was the intention you had as relates to what would take place at the August 6th meeting?
Yeah, it's a critical issue. So for those reasons specifically, we had to separate employment. So we were giving her the option of resigning with a separation agreement, which allowed her, I believe, about a month's worth of health insurance at the time. I think it was extended later. But we knew that at that meeting, the employment should be separated.
Okay. And ultimately, you were getting input, or were you getting input from people you work with?
Yeah, of course. So people you've already talked to, I needed to understand exactly what was going on, what the facts were. We have a highly collaborative culture here. So I want to make sure that I hear from everybody before we make decisions like that. But then ultimately the decision had to be mine, and I knew exactly what we had to do really right from the beginning as soon as I had the facts.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I think it was the internet connection. It cut out for just about a split second there, but did you say the decision had to be mine, as in yours?
Yeah, I mean, the decision was definitely mine. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And and then you've talked about how critical these financial issues are. Tell me why they're critical.
Yeah, so we have a policy-based governance. So I report to a board. One of their major responsibilities is fiscal management and fiscal oversight. They have one employee, that's me. So I report to them, and they regularly talk about finances, ensure that we are compliant. We are a non-profit, so we serve the public. And we serve the public on state dollars because most of the students that we serve come in on a public voucher. So it's important for us to manage our money upfront, transparently, and very, very carefully. In fact, the only schools that I know of that have been kicked out of the voucher program have to do with fiscal mismanagement. So we take that really, really seriously. The board makes sure that I take that really, really seriously. And I think it's part of our obligation as a nonprofit that takes public money as well.
Okay. And and were all those concerns, did those go into the decision that you made going into the August 6th meeting?
Yeah, it was, to me, it was really cut and dry. I mean, there wasn't really anything else that we could do. We cannot have somebody in that position who isn't managing finances and the resources well. The other piece of it is we've got a Christian mission. We believe everything belongs to God, so we can't be not managing these things particularly well. So to me, it was once the facts were had, it was a pretty quick decision on my part.
Okay. And you mentioned the separation agreement. Tell me what was involved in that.
Yeah, I mean, we care about people also, so we often try to soften the landing. We know that regardless of whether you have mismanaged money or made some other error, intentional or not, that we want to do the best we can to soften the landing outside the organization. So even though I knew that we had to separate at that point. So that was the purpose. Don't want to immediately cut off health insurance and things like that if they're useful, important for her going forward.
Okay. Did any of these motivation to separate let me rephrase the question. Did the motivation to separate from employment with Ms. Kutz stem from any ill feelings you had related to her age?
No, none.
Or any ill feelings you had related to headaches or any other medical issues she was reporting to be experiencing?
No, not at all.
Okay. To your knowledge, you can strike that question. Are you aware of what happened? Well, let me put it this way. Are you aware of any actions Ms. Kutz took following agreeing to the separation agreement?
I know she revoked the agreement not too long later.
Okay. And do you know what Lumen's response was to the revocation of the separation agreement?
Yeah, we asked her to come in because at that point then our employment would not have been separated. So we asked her to come in on a subsequent, I believe it was, well, I don't know the exact date that when it was.
Okay. And do you know what the intention of Lumen was, or I mean, what your understanding was that was to take place on that day? She was to come in now that employment was no longer separated?
Yeah, I think a number of things could have happened. Depending on how she came in and what her intention was, as we talked, at the separation agreement, it was clear where she wanted to go. Then she revoked it, so it's impossible to know exactly what she was thinking and what she believed at that point. So when she it could have probably taken a number of different ways, but she was coming in to be, my understanding, and our discussion employed at that point. Then we would have talked about where her head is, what she's doing, what her intention is. And we had, I know that day we had work that was planned for her.
Okay. What's your understanding of, I mean, are you saying there was like, when you say work that was planned for her, there was a potential position she could step into?
Yeah,
I think that's leading.
Well, he did say that there was work planned for her, so it it does suggest that there's a position. So I'm going to let the witness respond to it.
Yes, I know that the open position we had was some executive help for me specifically, and we had multiple projects that we could have assigned to her had it been the right fit when she came in.
Okay. Do you have any understanding if she came in on that day, she was directed to report to Lumen?
I do know, I do remember she was directed to report to Lumen, yes.
Okay. Do you know if she did?
She did not.
Okay. And at that point, was a decision made as to her employment status with Lumen?
I don't know that it was made that second, but in subsequent conversations as we move forward, I don't remember the exact specifics, but if you don't show up for your job, then ultimately we would have to terminate you.
Okay. And
or separate the agreement, yeah.
Okay. Yep. Okay. And at the end of the day, whose decision was that in the days following August 16th?
Yeah, ultimately it's my decision.
Okay.
So we would have collaborated around it like we did in multiple ones. I don't feel like there was long conversations about this, but ultimately it's my decision.
Okay. And the ultimate decision to separate from Ms. Kutz following her non-appearance on that particular day, was that driven by any ill feelings you had about her because of her age?
No.
Or because of any medical issues she was experiencing or reporting to experience?
No, not at all.
Okay. No further questions at this time.
All right. Attorney, your questions for Mr. Laring.
Yeah, just a few. Now, is it fair to say that as of June 2021, the transition of finances from SPI to Lumen was still a work in progress?
I'm not sure that that's fair to say, no.
So the details of that transition you think had been solidified at that point?
I think that's a question that our chief financial officer would be able to answer with more specifics. I can't speak specifically to that.
So you can't answer whether or not that's true.
Ask the question. Could you ask the question again, just to make sure that I'm understanding it?
I'm gonna have to have that read back.
I was muted. The previous question was, so the details of that transition you think had been solidified at that point?
Can you rephrase that?
So the details of the transition between SPI and Lumen, were they solidified as of June 2021, or were the, I guess, details of that still being worked out?
I guess I'm going to object because there's probably a plethora of details that would be involved in the transition, and it's a pretty broad and overarching question with a vague also.
Okay, let's look at complainants exhibit 22, page Lumen 163.
Has this been marked as an exhibit already?
It has not been.
22 at which Bates?
163.
Okay, and Mr. Laring hasn't been following along, so you might need to make sure we're on the same page.
So is it 163 and 164?
Yes.
Okay, that'll be marked as 38.
Is this an email that says, "Hi team, me again"?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was on the right track.
And we're designating 2 pages?
2 pages as exhibit 38.
Okay.
And let me know when you're there, and then I can ask you.
I am here, thanks.
Okay, so does this refresh your recollection as to the status of the transition between SPI and Lumen as of June 2021?
Are you speaking of the transition in general or financial transition?
Yeah, I guess specifically the financial things, and I'm reading the email that you're reading. It talks about who's doing billing, where bills are sent, who manages bank accounts and payroll. Those are all questions in this email.
Correct. Those are questions in the email, yes.
So that means they haven't been worked out at this point.
Well, what this says to me, and I don't remember this prior, is that our chief academic officer didn't know the answers to those.
And chief academic officer, who is that?
Nicole Schmidt.
Okay. And Nicole is recounting a conversation she had with your wife, correct?
Object. I actually don't think that's was the case in June 2021. I object to the form of the question.
Yeah, it's 2
Authority
questions.
is a principal and Mr. Laring is a CEO, and this has nothing to do with their familial relationship, which occurred at a later date and time.
Okay, let's unpack it. You're married to Principal Doherty or Stacy Doherty, now Stacy Laring, correct?
I'm currently married to her, yes.
Yeah. When did you marry her?
June 15th, 2022. July 15th, sorry, 2022.
That's fine. I won't tell her. And when abouts did your relationship begin?
I don't know exactly. It would have been, I don't know, sometime in probably late summer. I don't think it was fall, maybe, of 2021.
Okay. And she, at the time we're talking about, was the principal of SPI, soon to be the principal of Lumen SPI, correct?
Correct. We didn't make a huge difference between those two, but yes, she was the principal.
Got it. And so when it says I met with Stacy yesterday, it's talking about her, meaning Stacy Laring.
Stacy Doherty at the time, yes.
Doherty at the time, yes.
Sorry. I just object to the whole line of questioning. I don't understand the relevance of this.
Well, he testified that, again, I'm just trying to establish that the principal of the school had questions about how finances were going to be handled during this transition a month before these, I guess, employment actions become relevant. So the idea that the financial processes were sort of solidified, I think is, that's argument, but that's why I'm asking it.
I reiterate the objection. I still don't understand the relevance.
Okay, I'm going to allow the witness to respond to the question because I think that finances have been part of the testimony today. So, Mr. Laring, your response.
So I'm reading the email, and the email says there was a conversation between Nicole and Stacy where they were unsure. The person who would know those is Renata. So I'm not sure exactly if some of these questions were answered already and already had resolution or not. What it does look like is Nicole had these questions, and some or all of these questions were based on a conversation with Stacy.
And you were on this email. You were sent this, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I think my first question that led into this was, were you aware that there were still, let's call them open questions related to the transition as of June 2021?
The email's there, so I was aware of these questions. I don't know if they were resolved before that email was sent or not.
Got it. Okay, and one of the issues that is, I guess, one of the questions relates to where bills are being sent. Is that correct?
Object, I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, it's not important that you know. It's the witness needs to know. Mr. Laring, do you understand what the question is?
Are you referring to, what line are you referring to?
The third question, what should be sent to Lumen office, paren, bills, comma, etc, period, end paren, question mark?
Yeah, so that was your question was, is that an open, was that an open question then in our organization?
Yes.
Yes, well, it looks like that Nicole had that question. Yes, that's all. That's what I can say in this email. I don't know if Renata had that question. I don't know if Ellen would have had that question. The only other thing is well, yeah, I don't think there's nothing. Never mind.
So Ellen reported to Stacy, one of the two people that had these questions, not Renata, correct?
Yeah, I think she did report to Stacy. Yes. Mhm. And then there's a sort of an indirect line to anybody that has a functional role like our CFO.
Got it. That very first line in the sort of question part of the email said, Ellen is back, so I'm assuming what Isaiah was doing is now on Ellen. Who was Isaiah?
He was a former employee who was a school leader, but then at this point was doing some internal work for us, I believe, around enrollment. I'm not entirely sure. All right, I can't quite remember, I should say.
Do you know the nature of the work regarding enrollment that he was involved in? For example, was it dealing with like state requirements, or was it dealing with internal systems?
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
But, yeah.
And